looking ahead even further now, because my students, and by the way, folks, feel free to type questions in the chat and we'll work them into the conversation here. My students, most of them are looking to apply to law school this fall to start in fall 2021. So while some might be looking to start in a couple months, most will start over a year from now. So we've been discussing the short term, which is obviously what we're better able to predict, if anything, but where do you see this going over a year from now if the trend continues of innovating in legal education, and then of course at the same time, social distancing may be here, although I certainly hope not.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. Yeah, I certainly hope not.
Don't even say it. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Don't say that. Yeah.
What could the long-term consequences be? Even if things in a social distancing perspective move back to normal, a lot of the legal education changes may continue.
Right.
So where can we be over a year from now?
I think that the ABA is going to relax its the number of credits you can get distance learning. Right now, you can only take 15 of your 80 or whatever it is, 85 credits in a distance learning class. And a distance learning class is a class that delivers 50% or more. So not even 100%. They still want you to have some on campus. So I think that's going to change. And there's been some talk about it changing and before this all happened. And I think this will push that envelope, which will change where you decide to go to law school. So two things could happen. One thing, which I hope doesn't happen, is that some schools will now offer, they don't need a number of seats. So like Pay's law is dictated by the number of seats we can fit into our classrooms. Our classrooms, we have 3 classrooms that can fit 70 seats, so we can't take more than 200 students a year. But if we don't need seats, then we can take more students. I don't think that will happen to the second, third, definitely not fourth tier. I think it will happen at the first tier, in the middle of the second tier, which means that those the lower tiered schools are really going to be in trouble. That's something I do worry about. So that's one thing that is this idea of distance learning. Another issue is that law school's always been 3 years. And I'm wondering too, with the idea of off-campus learning, if it can become shorter. Now, this is just me speaking. There's no movement afoot on this, but it's another thought. Interesting.
So on that first point, I was really interested because that impacts things on the law school admissions side a lot, right? So if top and high to middle tier schools could accept far more students, they get those tuition dollars. They don't have to have literal bodies in seats, and they could admit more students, and they could probably afford to take a slight hit in the rankings in terms of lowering LSAT and GPA medians.
Right.
But then schools below them will not get enough bodies, not get enough tuition, and be at risk of closure potentially. Is that correct?
That's what I fear.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.